exercises to get lean and tone. For abs, I do a lot of body weight exercises, but other than that, it's actually, I lift really heavy, as heavy as I possibly can. So squats, bench press, when I do back, shoulders, I'm doing as much weight as I possibly can do to get 10 reps in. I've been training for about 4 years in the gym doing like weight training, but before that I grew up as a gymnast and dancer. So I always had an athletic background, but when I started doing just weight training, that was about 4 years ago. I eat pizza. Not pizza you buy when you're out, but I like to make my own homemade pizzas actually. I actually buy the lavish bread, and they're about 140 calories for like a whole square, and I'll toast them up in the oven, take them out, put on like a healthy, no sugar added pizza sauce. I'll even still measure out my meat I put on it. I'll do like a lean ground beef, sometimes like pico, garlic salt, things like that on it. So I make my own healthy pizzas because I do like pizza, but I don't actually go out and eat pizza like from Domino's. What should be a balanced diet according to you for fat loss? So it's all going to be really dependent on each person. No diet's going to work the same for everybody. A low-fat, high-carb diet may work for one person, and vice versa may work for another person. It's really dependent, but no matter what, for anyone, for weight loss, they have to be in somewhat of a calorie deficit. So let's say their maintenance calories is about at 2,000 calories a day. They need to be below that, otherwise they're not going to lose. If they're above that, they're not going to gain. It says, how long have I had a six-pack for? So when I started training 4 years ago, and when I was in gymnastics, I did not have a six-pack. It all, actually about 4 years ago was when I was at my heaviest, which heaviest is a weird way to put it because I actually was the same weight I am now. So right now I weigh about 120 pounds. 4 years ago I was about 120 pounds, but if you looked at a picture of me, my body looked completely different. So, I mean, I had a lot less muscle, a lot more fat, just the composition of my body is completely different. So I went from 120 pounds, not as much muscle, a lot more fat on me, higher body fat percentage. I lost like 10 pounds, I got down to 110, and I was pretty lean at that point, but I didn't have as much muscle mass on me. And then what I did is I kept working out in the gym, lifting heavy, and I put on about that 10 pounds back. Actually, I put on that 10 about this last year, so now I'm back up to that 120, which is where I like to be. When I was about 110, I felt a little bit too small, so for myself, being at 120 is pretty perfect for my size. I'm about 5'5", so I really don't want to be much bigger than that or much smaller than that. So I really like being at 120. Maybe for a show I'll be down to 118, but when I did a show when I was at like 110, I felt too small and too lanky. How much can I squat? I can squat like 225, but I don't really do that often. It's really hard on my knees and my back because I am still really petite. I can't do it all the time, so every now and then maybe I'll try to squat that heavy, but I would rather do, like squat at like 170 and do a lot more reps with better form than squat at 225 where I could potentially hurt myself, and my form is not going to be as good. So I can squat a lot heavier than I do a lot of the time, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna. I used to have a kind of big ego, and I'd work out with this guy, and he one time loaded up like 240 on this little frame here, and he's like, just hold it, and then, once you will take off 10 pounds, then it'll feel light. I did that, and I tweaked my back. So that's when I learned my lesson. I'm like, okay, no more trying to show off. It's stupid. I don't even go up to 225 anymore. I probably stay around 170, 180 max. I can do 3 sets of 10 reps, and I really don't feel a need to go much higher than that. I get a good workout. I can build at that. I'm not going to hurt myself. Cookies or brownies? Cookies. Brownie cookies. how much cardio. I do not very much cardio. If you watched one of my last Q&As, I talked about cardio, and I do the least amount of cardio as I possibly can. I do a lot of power cardio, I'd say HIIT more often. I do like to do sled pushes, dead kneel pushes, box jumps, but I don't do, you'll never see me on a treadmill just walking for any time longer than 20 minutes. Never see me running, God, not even running for a minute. I am terrible, and I looked not cute running. I don't have good form. I'm just like, so you don't want to see me run. How does one determine if eating the right and enough food when exercising? So if you're eating enough food for your body, what you need to do is figure out what your total daily energy expenditure is. The best way to do that is if you actually go and get your body fat analyzed, and you will go off of that and to figure out what your BMR is. But it's really difficult, not as accurate, but you can go online and look up a form to figure out what your basal metabolic is. So you'll put in your age, weight, and height. It'll give you what your BMR is, and then you're going to want to put in things like your activity factor. So like what you do throughout the day, what your job is, how many times a day you're working out, what your workout consists of, to figure out how many calories you burn through that. And that'll give you your total daily energy expenditure. And from that, it'll give you about how many calories you need to be eating a day. So what I would do is whatever it tells you to start eating at that, it'll say, eat that if you want to maintain. Go about 200 below to lose weight. Go about 200 above if you're trying to put on. So let's say you're trying to lose weight, you go 200 below. Well, you're not losing. Well, then your BMR is probably a little bit lower than what the calculator said, so you need to go down a little bit. But you kind of got to play with it for a while to figure out what really works for you. Do I ever get that huge stomach whenever I bloat? Yeah, I do. I know you all see my stomach flat like this, but I oftentimes, when I eat, sometimes like a shake that's been blenderized a lot and has a lot of protein in it, I get bloated. I eat a lot of veggies, I get bloated. So there's times when my belly is like a little, I feel like I have a little food babies full of air, full of a bunch of stuff, and I get bloated. Some ways that I try to prevent bloating is by drinking lots of water. I also take a daily probiotic to help with gut health. If you do a lot of sugar substitutes, any sugars that ends in ose or OL, those are going to be things that are sugar alcohols. Those, because they are 0 calories, can cause a lot of digestive issues and mess up with your gut health. So I like to take a probiotic to help maintain a healthy gut. But I also take, along with that, some digestive enzymes as well. So that has helped me long-term fight a little bit of the bloating that can come from eating a high-fiber diet, high-protein diet, and also all those sugar substitutes that are in things like protein powders, protein bars, and all of that. I've been trying to limit my sugar substitute consumption. I like to do things, use more stevia. I have found that stevia doesn't always make me as bloated. It doesn't have the same reaction, but when I do things like sucralose, mannitol, sorbitol, those all can really bloat me pretty bad. So I try to avoid those, like the Walden Farm syrups. They have a ton of sugar. I mean, they're no calories, and I'll use them every now and then. Like I like their pancake syrup, but there's a lot of sugar substitutes in them. So for a while, I was using them like every day. And that's when I had really bad bloating and stomach problems. So, it's all in moderation, right? So, use a little bit, not a big deal. If you're using it every day, you might eventually have some stomach problems and it may affect your gut health. So, everything in moderation, right? Someone asked if I recommend training first thing in the morning to drop fat fast. I really don't think it matters when you train. For weight loss, it is calories in, calories out. So you're throughout the day, however long you're working out for, if you're in any sort of a calorie deficit, you're going to lose. If you're in any sort of a calorie surplus, you're going to gain. If you are eating at your calorie maintenance levels, you're going to maintain that. So the calories dictate really whether you're going to gain or you're going to lose, but then the composition, so your carbs, fats, and protein, your macronutrients, are going to dictate what you gain and what you lose. So that's why people do high protein diets. So if you're doing, let's say, a low protein diet with high carb, high fat, general American population, and you're in a calorie deficit, you're probably going to, because you're not getting enough protein, you're going to lose muscle and fat. You're going to get weight loss, but you're probably going to be burning a lot of muscle. You're not getting enough protein. You're eating, let's say, at that same diet where you're high fat, high carb, low protein, and you're eating in a surplus, you're going to put on a lot of fat. Now let's look at if you were high protein, moderate carb, and moderate fat, but you're high protein, some people may be low carb, higher fat, and vice versa, but let's say you're eating at a higher protein level, and now you're in a calorie deficit. So that protein that you have that's high in a deficit is going to maintain your lean body mass. Your body's going to use that protein to hold on. So your fat loss or your weight loss is going to be coming from your fat stores versus your muscle stores. So let's look at that in a calorie surplus. When you have a high protein diet, most of the weight gain, you're going to gain maybe a little bit of fat, but it's going to be coming a lot from lean body mass, so you're going to put on a lot more muscle. So that's what I mean by if you're in a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus, whether you gain or lose, but your macronutrients dictate what you gain and what you lose. So that's why macronutrient ratios are so important. On my website at rachelscheer.com, I actually have, it's like the nutrition pyramid. So at the bottom of it, which is most important, is going to be calories in versus calories out. So how many calories you're getting a day, whether you're above that, below that, or trying to maintain that, just to maintain where you're at now. Up next is going to be macros, with your protein, your fats, your carbohydrates. And that's going to be a huge part. And then after that, it's going to be things like, your micronutrients, so your vitamins and minerals, all of those things. And if you're getting all of that as well, your fiber, your water. So those are kind of like the tiers that they go up, what's really going to matter most. So calories, your micronutrients, water, and all of those things all add up to basically create your body composition. Someone asked about a no-carb diet. I do not recommend doing no-carb. You should never cut out completely an entire macronutrient. Some people may do low-carb. Some people may do low-fat. But we need carbs. We need fats. We need all the macronutrients. So I would never recommend cutting any of them out from your diet completely. Not a good idea.
Someone says, what if you are at deficit workout, but you're getting some fat and a little carbs and are gaining weight?
Well, then you're not in a deficit. So if you're saying you're in a deficit, but you're gaining weight, you're not in a deficit. You have to be in a deficit to lose weight. So maybe the calculator you entered it in that said deficit, it may not be what your body actually considers a deficit. So your body's maintenance level is going to be a lot lower, unfortunately, than what that calculator says. So if you're gaining weight in what it says is a deficit, there's a few things you probably would either have to lower it down, but if it's already super, super low, there may be some other physiological things you need to get checked out. So recommend going and getting your hormones checked out, your thyroid, things like that, because those may be also to play if you are already eating at really low calories and you're still gaining weight. There may be something other to play there besides just diet and fitness, really. How do you get your abs to pop? Nutrition you have to be at a body fat percentage that is low enough for you to see your abs. So we all have abs. We all have these guys. A lot of them are just hidden by a layer of fat. So if you get lean enough, so you burn enough calories, things like that, to reveal your muscle underneath your fat or underneath your skin, then you will see your muscles, and the leaner you are, the more they will pop. You can do body weight or do ab exercises to try to get them a little bit more defined. But you'll see people, that's why you see really skinny people who maybe have ripped abs. You'll see abs, but it's just because they don't have a lot of body fat. So it comes down to your body fat percentage, which is whether you see your abs or whether you don't. Someone said they heard calorie intake doesn't matter if your body is in a state of ketosis. Sorry, that is very incorrect. Calories do matter. Can you imagine if you're, okay, let's say you did 0 carbs, but you're consuming like 5,000 calories a day. Okay, yeah, your body is technically in ketosis because it's not burning carbs as its source of energy. But you're eating 5,000 calories, and let's say your maintenance calories is about at 2,000. 3,000 calories, there's 3,500 calories to every pound of fat you gain. So you'd be gaining in that day almost a pound of fat. You gotta be in a deficit to lose weight. You can't expect just because you're cutting out carbs, you're gonna lose weight. I mean, a lot of people do better maybe with low carb. I don't actually though, but it does matter. You have to be in a deficit to lose weight. You can't just cut out carbs and eat high protein, high fat and be like, oh, I'm not eating carbs, I'm going to lose weight. No, you have to be in a deficit. Calories matter. They do. Macronutrients determine what you gain and what you lose, but you're not going to lose if you're not in a deficit. What do I think about intermittent fasting? I've never done it, and I'm not, gonna be honest, a huge fan of it. I do really well with, I like to eat when I wake up, and my last meal right before I go to bed. Some people adopt intermittent fasting as a form of, basically they're skipping breakfast, so let's say they eat their dinner at 8 p.m., and they don't eat again until the next day around noon. So they're fasting for maybe a longer period, essentially skipping breakfast. And yeah, that may work for some people because the less they're presented with meals in front of them, the less likely they are to overeat. But it still matters whether it's calories in or calorie out. So it maybe if you're not, eating as much, but you still need to be getting all your macronutrients and micronutrients in those times when you're eating. So if you're doing intermittent fasting and you have your eating window from about noon to 8 p.m., you still need to be meeting all your protein goals. So let's say you want to be getting 150 grams of protein. You need to get in those 150 grams during that window. You need to be getting as much carbs as there may be on your nutritional needs and the fats that you need during that time window as well. So you're still essentially eating the exact same amount of food as someone who would not be doing intermittent fasting, but you just put it in a window. So yeah, you're fasting longer, but I'm not crazy about it, but if you want to try it and see how it works for you, I'd say go for it. I just think sometimes, especially for if you're trying to gain muscle or people who, are trying to bulk up even. I mean, imagine trying to eat as much food that you need to eat in that little time window. It'd be very difficult. So for fat loss, it may be a little bit of a better approach, but it doesn't work for all approaches, that's for sure. They asked if supplements matter, or if you can get the same results without supplements. If you're getting, so by supplements you mean like protein, like the supplement industry with all the protein powders and all those. No, you don't need them. You can get protein through real food. I like protein shakes for things as a convenience factor when they maybe don't have time to get in a meal, but you don't need them. They are not, you can get good results without them for sure. If we're talking about supplements in the form of vitamins and minerals and fish oils, things like that, it's usually very difficult to get, especially if you eat the same things every single day, to get all the vitamins and minerals you need through your diet alone. Like I said, especially if you're eating the same things every day. If you're mixing up the foods you're eating, all your vegetables, all of those things, it's possible, but it's difficult, like I said. So for me, I tend to eat a lot of the same things, so I need to be taking a multivitamin to make sure I'm getting all my vitamins and minerals. I like to take a fish oil, as well because they're anti-inflammatory. They actually help promote body fat loss as well. They can also lower your body's stress levels. So anti-inflammatories, and as Americans, general population, maybe not Americans, but we tend to get a lot more omega-6s than omega-3s. Omega-6s are, although they're essential fatty acids, which means we need them in our diet, they're pro-inflammatory. So we're getting a lot more of the inflammatory fatty acids than we are getting the anti-inflammatory fatty acids, which are the omega-3s. So sometimes supplementing with omega-3s can help counteract some of the pro-inflammatory, especially if you're working out and you have high inflammation markers as well.